Hey everyone, what is going on? My name's Archer Live, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Payday 3, and we're going to talk about what we think might be coming in the game, some little speculation as to what might or might not be added, and just general thoughts and opinions on what might be nice to see in the game, but hasn't necessarily been confirmed or verified, because at this point we don't really have much information on the game other than we know that it's happening and it's currently in development. So, if we go back to the very start, we know that Payday 3 was confirmed in 2016 when Overkill bought the rights to the Payday franchise and at the same time ended all use of microtransactions on the PC version. At that point though, they didn't really say much about it, and up to now we haven't really had much other than a couple of cryptic tweets from them, one of them just literally saying Payday 3 and then a reply to it saying the purpose of this tweet was to get the community talking for features we'd like to see in the game. I won't touch too much on what people have said there because it's all speculation, but I've put a few things together myself that I think would be good to talk about. So, first off, let's talk about characters, because that's probably one of the most important things of the Payday game. So, with the amount of characters that there are now in Payday 2, there's over 20 characters you can pick and play from. It's at the point now where we're thinking, well, which one of those are going to come back? Which ones are going to return? Which ones might be put to bed with Payday 2 and not come back? Personally, the way I would look at it is the crossover characters, so characters from other forms of media, I think are far less likely to return. So people like John Wick and Bodhi and Jackie, characters like those who have kind of had their kind of own universes crossed over with the Payday franchise just so they could work as a character. I can't really see them carrying on into a new game personally, but anyone who's been new and introduced to the game, you know, through just the Payday lore is more than reasonable to come back into the game. So you've got characters like Clover, you've got Dragon, you've got Sydney, even Rust, but the problem with people like Rust is they're done by famous voice actors, and that again kind of makes you think, probably not going to happen. And so I wouldn't really count him in this because a celebrity actor, again, it doesn't seem feasible that, you know, they will bring in a celebrity actor twice for the same game franchise. I feel like one appearance in it is enough. Not to mention, I mean, I don't know whether anyone else heard this, but apparently Ron Perlman's planning on running for president in whatever the next, is it 2020, the next presidential election? I haven't got a clue, honestly, but apparently that's happening. So, I mean, if Donald Trump can do it, anyone can do it from the way I'm standing. But either way, that's by the by, and we're not going to get into politics. But yeah, I can't see Rust and I can't see crossover characters, but anyone who's been added to the game just purely through lore is more than likely to return, I would say. But I think we would definitely see Dallas, Chains, Houston, and Hoxton. And I don't say Wolf because there's a bit of a grey area around Wolf, and that's because Ulf Anderson, the person who voices Wolf, and also is one of the founders of Payday in general, just founded the entire franchise. For those of you who don't know, he actually left Overkill Studios in 2015, I think it was, and he's actually founded a new studio called 10 Chambers, and they're currently working on a new 4-player co-op game called GTFO. If you don't know what it stands for, it's for the best. If you do know it, then you know I'm not going to say it the full spelling, because I don't swear on this channel, but that's by the by. So he's busy working with that, and he is not associating himself with Payday anymore. It's not like he's not friends with Overkill. He's more than, you know, gets on with them fine, but it's kind of like he doesn't really associate now. He's doing his own things, and he's not involved in the production of Payday or any Payday DLC anymore. So, especially the thing that a lot of people pick up on now is when Wolf calls out a medic in-game, a lot of people have noticed that that word is kind of spliced, and it turns out it was actually used from a bunch of Wolf's lines kind of spliced together to make the word medic, but it doesn't even sound like medic, it's like medi, and it doesn't really finish the word. So if they had to do that for an entire set of voice lines, it would just be a little bit dodgy and a little bit weird. But it's not to say they wouldn't get a new voice actor, because for those of you who don't know as well, the voice actor for Chains in Payday 2, Damien Poitier, he wasn't the original voice actor for Chains. That changed between Payday 1 and 2. So if they can do it before, they can more than likely do it again. It's harder to do that now that Payday's a lot more popular, because the first game, without any shadow of a doubt, was nowhere near as popular as the second one, didn't get nearly as much support, and didn't make nearly as many sales. So now at this point they might kind of go, it's not good to change who's playing characters between franchises, because a lot of games don't tend to do that. But it's more than possible. It could still happen. It's just Wolf, I think, is the less likely one. But if they don't have Dallas, I mean, he's the face of Payday. He's the face that you see everywhere in Payday stuff. So they would obviously have him. And I just don't see any reason why Chains and Houston wouldn't be in it. And Hoxton, provided we don't have the same issue that we did at Payday 2's launch, where he wasn't able to voice act because he had other commitments, then there's no reason he won't be there. But then again, that could happen for any other actor. So it's a very tough one to decide from. And the question with Dallas is, will we get both the voice actor and the live action actor back, because it's two different people. The person who voices Dallas in-game, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, he is a different person to the person who represents Dallas in live action trailers, the live action TV series, Eric Atabari. He plays him in that, and he's kind of the known face of Dallas, and then the other guy who's in the voiceover in-game is just kind of the voice. We don't really know who he is. It's just kind of, that's the mix. But you know, as far as I can see, there's no reason why they wouldn't like block up their timetables to not fit Payday 3 in, because it's pretty much the main part of a lot of the voice actors' lives. It's what they're best known for, so I don't really see any issue with that. But moving on, we're going to talk about location, because the thing I saw quite interestingly in a Steam forum in the last week or so was a debate going on about Payday 3 moving to Britain and going for a pound sign rather than a dollar sign in the logo. There was no kind of official person saying this or anything, it was just a speculation, but it picked up quite some traction, and I was reading through it and thinking, I just can't see it. I mean, from my perspective, someone who is British, playing a game where you're making dollars isn't really very kind of unorthodox. It's not kind of rare or anything. Most kind of major games where you make money, you're making it in dollars. It's very rarely in pounds. And I think people in Britain and in Europe kind of accept that dollar is, you know, the big thing that you get in games. You work to get dollars. And the American audience, one of the biggest audiences for the video gaming industry, is all like, yeah, we're making our currency in the game. I can't see that changing to pounds now. Because, for starters, Overkill isn't even American, so they've already stuck with the dollar thing, and it's something completely different to what they use. They use euros in Sweden, so it's like, well, why haven't they used euros in the start? Because it's not as mainstream. Dollars is the most mainstream currency I can think of off the top of my head. I know, like, in terms of population of the world, China's, like, got the most population in the world, but I don't even know what China's currency is. I don't want to offend anyone if anyone does, but I honestly haven't got a clue. And I won't be the only person. People, when you ask them, will say probably the most kind of well-known conceived form of currency is the dollar. So can't see them changing that. And in terms of location, as a result, I would keep it in America. They will probably move somewhere different. They won't do it in Washington, D.C., because it wasn't in D.C. in the first game. I can't remember where it was actually set. A few jobs were in different places, I'm pretty sure. But I think they'll just move on somewhere else. So, ideal locations, I don't know. Las Vegas would be an interesting one, but it depends on what they can do there, because you've been there for the Golden Grin, so maybe there's more to explore there. Maybe New York, I think, would be an interesting place to go to, like a huge sprawling metropolis where there's so many kind of opportunities for like criminal jobs and all sorts. So I think New York's one to keep an eye on, but I just can't see them doing it in DC again, especially considering now Overkill's The Walking Dead, the next game that they're making before Payday 3, which I'll talk about a little bit later, is actually also set in DC. I feel like if they just keep throwing things into Washington, DC, it'll get a bit stale and it'll get a bit boring. So I think a fresh outlook somewhere else in America is the best place to look. Moving on, before we talk about features that I'd like to see actually in the game and haven't been, you know, kind of confirmed, I just want to discuss. First thing I want to say is about console release, because as most of you will be subscribed watching my Payday Stuff 4, you're probably most likely a console player, and you'll be thinking, well, will this game be coming out on consoles? And as far as I'm concerned, it will be. Now, because the thing you got to remember is, even though Xbox 360 and PS3 had support completely dropped after a few months, they released at the exact same time as PC. At least I am under the complete illusion they did. Unless I'm wrong there, but I'm highly sure that they did. So even though they didn't get support, the game's still released. I'm not saying it won't get support, because it will. Because if they mess up DLC support again, they are literally dead in the water. There is no way Overkill could ever release another game without supporting it on console, because they would just be destroyed. They did it first with Payday 2 on the Xbox 360 and PS3. They did it for a little while with Payday 2 on the Xbox One and PS4. And now they're trying to build their reputation back. So if they make that mistake again, they're literally shooting themselves in the foot more times than I've had hot dinners. It's just ridiculous. And that is a British metaphor that nobody will have ever heard in their lives. And I've just used that, and that's kind of weird. But we'll move on. Anyway, so I see an Xbox One and PS4 release alongside PC. I don't see 360 and PS3. And I know people have actually been commenting on videos saying, do you think they'll get any more DLC on the old gen? No. I hate to say it, but support was pulled years ago. They're not going to go back now. Payday 2 was too technically advanced for the old gen consoles, and I can't see them changing that for any more games where the graphics is going to get better, gameplay is going to get better and hopefully more in depth, and just in general, it just wouldn't support an old console. I can't see it myself, but I just wanted to put that out there because I know people will be asking. So I would see a joint next gen console, Xbox One, PS4 release alongside PC, with no doubt Steam it'll be. So moving on to a few features that I'd like to look at. The first one I want to think about is some kind of co-op campaign. Now, this is a bit of a kind of blueprint idea that I've come up with, trying to have a think about it, but we've already seen with Lock and Load in 2017 that there was a story mode feature added to Payday 2. Granted, it wasn't anything major or game-changing or kind of like, ooh, a new way to play Payday 2. It was just a different way of playing jobs you'd already done before. And it was kind of giving it the chronology that you'd seen maybe in the web series or the live-action trailers, like putting things into order, putting them into the right perspective, and so on and so forth. So what I'd like to see going forward is possibly some kind of co-op campaign. And I don't mean something where you have to kind of go through loads of in-depth levels and all sorts. I mean, having a set of jobs that are arranged together, kind of like Crime Spree or kind of like story mode as it is on Payday 2, but you have it as a separate game mode. So when you log on, you can log on to like the normal Crime Net if they still use that, and then underneath could be like Crime Net Story Mode or something along those lines. You'd have to give it an actual name. And you could log on, play it with up to 4 players, and actually have some form of campaign. So the voiceover lines, like from Bane and other characters, will be based on what's happened so far in the story and what your end goal is. So you're doing small jobs, building up for the big job, whatever it might be. And you can kind of save your progress, back out, do it with friends, do it alone if you want. And the thing that springs to mind when I say that is Black Ops 3, because Black Ops 3, Call of Duty, Black Ops 3 had a co-op campaign that worked quite well. It was an interesting kind of twist to the campaign mechanic in Call of Duty games, and I think it's something that could quite easily translate to Payday 2, because it is, as it says on the tin, a 4-player co-op FPS. So for them to have some kind of story mode feature would bring some other form of replayability in, and give it a different kind of perspective to just playing normal casual multiplayer. So I'd like to see it. I don't quite know how they could implement it, but it could literally just use the maps that are put into multiplayer with CrimeNet and just put them into an order, have them as their own linear sequence with a few different voice lines, and literally go from there. I mean, for those of you who play Call of Duty, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the very first Modern Warfare game, COD 4, pretty much all the multiplayer maps just pulled straight from campaign. So it's like they've pulled them straight out of campaign, removed the voice lines, and gone, alright, go ham, play some TDM kind of thing. More recent Call of Duties don't tend to do that, but that's kind of the formula they used to run. So something along those lines going backwards, so going from multiplayer to campaign for Payday, would be an interesting idea, and I'd like to see maybe if they could implement that. Moving on, it's more kind of customization things now, and this is kind of one of the last main thing I wanted to touch on. And it was pretty much how you customize your weapons and your masks. Now, for those of you who play on PC, you'll be aware of the Steam Workshop and the way you can design your own weapon skins that can be put into community safes that you could open up and, you know, get and give you different weapon stats and all sorts. Same for armor now, you can do that as well. Your body armor can be customized and drawn on and all sorts. Console players don't have that experience, and as a result, I don't have that experience. I don't know how they work very much. I have Payday 2 on Steam, and I think I've said in the past, my computer cannot run games very well. It was on a laptop, and I tried to do it on a train at one point and play a bank heist, and I'm pretty sure my laptop was like 2 minutes from exploding. It was that hot, so there's no way I'd even try and design a skin or anything that advanced. But I'd like to see that brought onto console and have some way of just kind of being more involved in how your gun actually physically looks in terms of cosmetics rather than weapon stats. So all the attachments and all the choice that we have on weapons is amazing. That can carry on and be in Payday 3. I don't really see how they can make that much better other than having more options for attachments, but it's only a gun, so there's only so much you can do to it, so they're already doing quite well there. But it's just being able to have more ways to get skins, so you can get these really cool skins that, you know, far more technologically designed and far more advanced than we could ever draw. But if you want to make your own and design it with like some kind of paint shop tool, you can do that. Again, kind of like Call of Duty. There's a few comparisons to Call of Duty here that I'm making, but maybe that's just because they have good features. But in specifics, again, Black Ops 3, you had the paint shop where you could put your own little paints onto guns, and they mixed with camouflages and all sorts, so it was only certain areas you could paint over. But it gave a little bit of a personal touch, and it made them a little bit cooler, and it made you a bit more proud to use that gun rather than anything else. So I don't know, I'd like to see that put through. But a few people have been asking me when I've said, well, I've suggested it, when I've asked them about making this video, they've said mask customization, while it's really good and you have millions and millions of options altogether, the mask patterns are a little bit flat and a little bit kind of boring in the fact that you click the button and they get just stamped onto the mask. There is no kind of, you know, toggle where they appear on the mask, and for some things, it's really difficult to get the pattern in the right place that you want. If you have like a full face mask, the pattern spreads right around the face and you can't really tell it anymore. Stuff like that, so you can kind of go, I want this pattern, but I want to shrink it, put it in a certain area, twist it round, rotate it, you know, have it different things, and maybe have certain bits of the pattern in different colours in a more kind of customizable way, rather than saying I want primary colour black, secondary colour red, do what you have to do, because it kind of goes, okay, well this can be this colour and this can be that. You can have the choice, you can put the colours in yourself, you can move the patterns around yourself, just more player options to customise things, and it'll be even better, and masks will be even better. Because it's got to the point now where with all the masks coming out on console, because we get so many DLCs at once when you get a patch, Not a lot of the masks interest me because when I look at them, I already know that trying to customize them would just not work. It wouldn't be feasible. Most of the masks I use are old ones. It's very rare that I find a mask in a new update that I really want to use. So I'd like to see that change in Payday 3 and have constantly new masks that I want to customize because I can have the option to put patterns, colors, all sorts everywhere, all over them. I mean, the materials, there's nothing wrong with them, honestly. I think they're amazing. There's so many options for those. There's literally so many that it gets ridiculous that you've got some that are just bad because they haven't got any other good designs to make. So keep that bit up. But just being able to move the patterns would be really cool. But that pretty much sums up all I wanted to say. There's obviously loads of features in Payday 2, like the infamy system and being able to have your XP progression and where you can earn attachments with the card drops. Those are all really good features. I'm not going to talk about them because I just like to see those completely transported into Payday 3. Maybe more infamy levels because infamy 25 is not too high for Payday 2. At least for me, someone who's played it so much that they could have got to infamy 50 by this point. But those features don't really need to be talked about. I just want to see them completely carbon copy transferred over. And I doubt, because there'll be someone who'll ask me, card drops aren't going to be made into microtransactions. I can't see that, especially considering the kind of the fallout they got over making microtransactions in PC Payday 2 when they did the safes and the drills. There's no way they would add a kind of, oh, you get that you can buy more card drops if you spend this amount of money. They're not EA. This isn't Battlefront 2, although I do like Battlefront 2, but that's another matter. But yeah, it's not like a gambling thing, so they won't do that for anyone who's wondering. But I expect everything to continue on being free, apart from the DLCs. When they're released, they'll obviously charge for them. Not like the way they have with Payday 2 now, because the only reason they've made DLCs free on Payday when they add them now is purely because they've made so much of a profit that they just want to give something back to the community. Because they've got enough money, they've said, to completely make back all the costs of Payday 2, make a decent enough profit, and even have enough money to start working on Payday 3. So, with me saying everything about that, when is the game coming out? That's the final matter to talk about. And personally, I am kind of penciling in 2020, and there's a reason for that. Only because I'm thinking, we're in 2018 now, and we know Overkill's The Walking Dead won't be coming out until the very end of 2018, and that's saying it doesn't get put back, because a lot of games don't tend to meet their predicted release dates anymore. So we could be seeing early 2019 release for that if they put it back. And then thinking about that from there on, when is Payday 3 going to appear? It could appear in 2019, depending on whether or not The Walking Dead comes out this year. But they've got to reveal it at E3, they've got to do all the press conferences for it, all the marketing, get it out there, get people knowing about the game, which they've barely done for The Walking Dead yet. I mean, they did a reveal stream which pretty much didn't tell us anything, apart from one non-gameplay trailer, which was cool, don't get me wrong, but there wasn't really much other than that. There was a half-an-hour interview with Almir and Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead, and they pretty much just joked about DLCs that would never be added to the game because they're too stupid and satirical, so they've got to add the time to, you know, get it out there and answer questions that people want to know about the game before they can even think about giving you gameplay and giving you release dates. So I think 2020, and I think a reveal at E3 in 2019, like an initial reveal is possible, but a proper full-on one in 2020. That's the way I see it. It'll be 7 years after Payday 2 was released, and I know that's like it was only like 2 years between the first and second games, but you got to remember that Payday 1 barely got any updates at all in terms of, you know, new maps and stuff. Payday 2 has had dozens and dozens and dozens of maps. It's taken us way further than they ever thought, and support for Payday 2 doesn't even end until the end of 2018. It'll probably end roughly around the time they're planning to release The Walking Dead, I'd imagine. That seems feasible for a game studio that just doesn't have several games running at once. It kind of feels like, okay, we finished working on Payday 2, divert all our resources to The Walking Dead and a few people to work on Payday 3, and we'll keep putting people on Payday 3 the further the game goes along. So that's what I'd say for 2020. But anyway, that ends my debate about what I'd like to see in Payday 3 and when I think it'll be coming out. If you guys did enjoy this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and I want to hear what you think about everything I've said down in the comments section. We'll have a big discussion about what you think we'll see in the game. And other than that, thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. And other than that, see you all in the next video. Take it easy.